Picture this. You're sitting across from your coworker at lunch, and she's telling you about her financial plan. She sounds like she knows exactly what she's doing. She's paying off her mortgage early. She's maxing out her traditional 401k. She's keeping 6 months of expenses in her savings account. She's driving a brand new car because she negotiated a great monthly payment. She's diversifying into individual stocks because her financial advisor told her to pick winners. And you're sitting there thinking, she has it all figured out. Here's what nobody at that lunch table will tell you. Every single one of those decisions might be quietly destroying her financial future. Not because she's irresponsible, not because she doesn't care, but because the advice she followed sounds exactly like what a smart, financially responsible person is supposed to do. That's the trap. The most dangerous financial advice isn't the obvious stuff. It's not the crypto bro screaming about moonshots. It's not the Instagram influencer hawking a get-rich-quick scheme. The most dangerous advice is the kind that gets nodded at in financial planning offices, repeated at dinner parties, and passed down from parents who genuinely believe they're helping you. In 2026, conventional financial wisdom is costing ordinary Americans hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the worst part? The people losing that money feel smart while they're losing it. They feel responsible. They feel like they're doing the right thing. According to Federal Reserve data, the median retirement savings for American households approaching retirement age is approximately $87,000. That's after a lifetime of following the advice. After decades of doing what they were told, the conventional playbook produced a conventional result, and that result is barely enough to fund 4 years of expenses. Meanwhile, a completely different group of Americans, people who questioned the conventional wisdom, who ran the actual math, who understood that sounding smart and being financially effective are two completely different things. Those people are retiring early, retiring comfortably, and building generational wealth on salaries their coworkers would recognize as completely ordinary. The difference isn't income, it isn't luck. It's knowing which advice to follow and which advice to politely smile at and then never implement. My name is Ava, and I've spent 17 years in investment banking and accounting, watching intelligent, hardworking people follow advice that sounds bulletproof and produces catastrophic results. I've sat in boardrooms with people earning $500,000 a year who couldn't cover a $5,000 emergency without selling something. I've watched people dutifully follow every rule in the conventional personal finance playbook and arrive at retirement with nothing but a paid-off house and a Social Security check that barely covers groceries. What I'm about to show you isn't contrarian for the sake of being provocative. Every number I give you comes from real data. Every calculation I walk you through is math you can verify yourself tonight. And every piece of conventional advice I'm about to dismantle has a legitimate-sounding reason behind it, which is exactly what makes it so dangerous. If this information changes how you think about money, hit the like button and subscribe. Not because I need the algorithm bump, but because what you're about to learn took me 17 years to fully understand, and I'm going to give it to you in the next 30 minutes. Your future self, the one who either has options or doesn't, is being built right now by the decisions you make today. Let's get into it. The binary comparison, meet Claire and Diana. They grew up in the same city, went to similar schools, both landed professional jobs at 25, and by 30, they were each earning $78,000 a year. Same starting line. Same resources, same basic understanding that they needed to be financially responsible. The difference is which financial advice each of them decided to follow. She paid off her student loans as aggressively as possible before investing because debt is bad and being debt-free feels like freedom. She kept her emergency fund at a traditional savings account because her bank was convenient and familiar. She bought a brand new car because she negotiated it down to a $650 monthly payment, which felt like winning. She invested her retirement savings in a diversified portfolio of individual stocks and actively managed funds because her financial advisor told her that picking quality companies is smarter than just buying everything. She paid extra toward her mortgage every month because owning her home outright was the dream. And besides, equity is wealth. Her friends praised her for being responsible. Her family told her she was doing everything right. Diana followed a different set of rules. She made minimum payments on her low-interest student loans while immediately capturing every dollar of her employer's 401k match. She moved her emergency fund to a high-yield savings account the week she opened it because she'd read one article that explained the difference between 0.39% and 4.5% and couldn't unsee the math. She bought a 3-year-old certified pre-owned Honda for $14,000 cash, money she'd saved over 8 months while driving her original car into the ground. She invested exclusively in low-cost index funds and never called a financial advisor because the data told her she didn't need to. She made exactly the minimum payment on her mortgage and invested the difference. From the outside, Diana looked less impressive, Her car was boring. She didn't have the satisfaction of watching individual stocks. She wasn't aggressively attacking her debt. She wasn't building equity as fast as Claire. Fast forward 15 years. They're both 45. Claire has a paid-off student loan, a nearly paid-off car, a nice chunk of home equity, and a retirement account worth approximately $195,000. She feels financially responsible. She is, by most conventional measures, doing fine. Diana has a slightly larger mortgage balance than Claire, still drives a Honda, and has a retirement account worth $487,000. She also has no high-interest debt, an emergency fund earning actual returns, and enough liquid investment assets that she's already run the math on retiring at 57. Same income, same starting point, 15 years of different decisions. The gap between them isn't $292,000. When you account for what Diana's portfolio will continue to compound into over the next 20 years, the gap is closer to $1.1 million. 5 pieces of conventional advice created that gap. Let's go through every single one of them. The reframing, the 5 pieces of advice that sound smart and aren't bad advice. Number 1, pay off all debt before you start investing. This one feels viscerally correct. Debt is bad. You should eliminate it. Being debt-free is freedom. The emotional logic is airtight. The mathematical logic is a disaster. Here's the unsexy math nobody walks you through. When Claire spent her late 20s aggressively paying off her 5.5% student loans before contributing a single dollar to her retirement account, she wasn't being responsible. She was making a guaranteed 5.5% return while giving up the opportunity to make 8% in the stock market. And she was giving up something even more valuable than the return differential: time. A dollar invested at 25 and left untouched grows to approximately $7 by 65 at historical market averages. A dollar invested at 30 grows to roughly $4.60. Claire chose to eliminate debt for 4 years before investing, which means she sacrificed the most powerful compounding years of her entire financial life to save 5.5% interest on money that was costing her less than the market would have paid her. The correct framework is brutally simple. If your debt's interest rate is lower than what the market historically returns, you invest first. If your employer offers a 401k match, you capture every dollar of that match before paying off anything, because an employer match is a guaranteed 50 to 100% return, and nothing, not paying off debt, not any investment, will ever beat that. The debt that genuinely deserves aggressive payoff is high-interest debt, specifically anything above 15% APR. Credit cards at 22% interest should be eliminated immediately, but 5% student loans, 3% mortgages, paying those off early, especially before capturing investment growth, is the financial equivalent of paying full price for something that was on sale next door for half off. Claire didn't make a stupid decision. She made a decision that sounded smart and cost her, by the time she's 65, somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000, depending on what the market does. That's the real price of the pay off all debt first advice. Bad advice number 2. Your emergency fund belongs in your bank's savings account. This one is almost embarrassingly simple, but I'm going to spend real time on it because the numbers are genuinely shocking. The national average savings account interest rate, as of 22 SECs, sits at approximately 0.39%. You read that right. 0.39%. On $20,000 sitting in a standard bank savings account, you're earning $78 per year. High-yield savings accounts at online banks are currently offering between 3.5% and 4.5% APY. Same FDIC insurance, same accessibility, same function. On $20,000, you're earning between $700 and $900 per year. Over 10 years, the difference between these two options on a $20,000 emergency fund is approximately $8,000. On a $30,000 emergency fund, it's over $12,000. You didn't have to take any additional risk. You didn't have to do anything complicated. You just had to open a different account, which takes about 15 minutes online. This is what I call the silent heist, and banks are running it on millions of Americans right now. They know you won't move your money because inertia is powerful and switching feels like effort. They're counting on your laziness to pad their margins while you earn essentially nothing on your own cash. But here's where the conventional advice gets even more dangerous. Most people following the traditional playbook are keeping far too much in their emergency fund in the first place. The standard recommendation of 3 to 6 months of expenses was designed for a world where emergencies were isolated and predictable. In 2026, emergencies are expensive, cascading, and slower to recover from than the conventional advice assumed. The correct emergency fund in 2000 needs to account for the reality that job searches now average 4 to 8 months for professional positions. It needs to account for the fact that a single car repair, medical incident, or home emergency can cost $3,000 to $10,000 out of pocket. It needs to account for inflation eroding the purchasing power of cash that sits untouched. For most people in 2026, the right emergency fund is closer to 9 to 12 months of actual expenses, held in a high-yield account that's slightly separate from your daily banking to create just enough friction that you don't casually dip into it. Not at your primary bank, not in your checking account, somewhere that takes a day or two to access. That combination, the right amount in the right place earning the right rate, is the difference between a genuine safety net and an expensive illusion of security. Bad advice number 3. A good car payment is just part of life. I'm going to be direct with you. This is probably the single most normalized piece of wealth-destroying behavior in America, and I have zero patience for how casually it gets accepted. The average new car payment in $22 per month. 1 in 5 buyers is now committing to over $1,000 per month. Americans collectively owe $1.67 trillion in auto loan debt, which has surpassed total student loan debt and now represents the second largest category of consumer debt behind mortgages. And virtually everyone treats this as completely normal. Your parents had car payments. Your coworkers have car payments. The assumption runs so deep that questioning it feels strange, like questioning why people have electricity or running water. Let me show you what a good deal on a car payment actually costs. Claire bought a new car at 28 for $45,000. She put $3,000 down, financed $42,000 at 7% over 72 months, and her payment was $654 per month. She replaced that car at 34 with a similar vehicle and has maintained roughly continuous car payments of around $650 per month from age 28 to age 45. That's 17 years of $650 monthly payments, raw dollars paid, approximately $132,600. Diana bought a 3-year-old Honda for $14,000 cash at 28. She drove it for 7 years with about $3,000 in maintenance. Sold it for $5,000, bought another used car for $16,000 cash, still driving it. Total transportation spending over the same 17 years, approximately $28,000. The difference, $104,600. But that's not the real number. That $650 monthly difference, invested at 8% returns over 17 years, grows to approximately $310,000. Diana doesn't have a flashier car. She has $310,000 more in her investment account, and she drives to work in the morning exactly the same way Claire does, on roads that don't care what she's driving. This isn't about deprivation. It's about understanding that every car payment is a direct transfer of wealth from your future to a dealership, a lender, an insurance company, and a depreciation curve. The minute you drive a new car off the lot, you've lost approximately 10% of its value. Within a year, you're down 20 to 30%. You're making payments on something worth less and less, while the loan balance barely budges in the early years. The research on actual millionaires is conclusive on this point. According to Ramsey Solutions' survey of over 10,000 millionaires, the 3 most popular car brands among people with 7-figure net worths are Toyota, Honda, and Ford. The median price they pay for a vehicle is $31,367. Not because they can't afford more, because they understand that transportation is a utility, not a status symbol. And status symbols are extraordinarily expensive ways to look wealthy while actually becoming poorer. Bad advice number 4. Pick good stocks and you'll beat the market. Your financial advisor probably believes this. Your uncle who watches business news definitely believes this. And it sounds completely reasonable. Study companies. Identify winners. Buy them. Profit. Here's what the data actually shows. According to S&P's Sviva report, which tracks professional fund manager performance, approximately 80% of actively managed large-cap funds underperform their benchmark index over a 10-year period. That's professional investors with teams of analysts, proprietary research tools, and direct access to company management, failing to beat a simple index fund 8 times out of 10 over a decade. If professionals with unlimited resources and full-time focus can't consistently beat the market, what do you think happens when you try to do it in your spare time based on things you read on financial news sites? The opportunity cost here is brutal. Claire spent years contributing to an actively managed fund with a 1.0% expense ratio, selected individual stocks based on her advisor's recommendations, and traded periodically when something felt right or wrong. Diana put everything into a total market index fund with a 0.03% expense ratio and never looked at it except to confirm contributions were processing. That 0.97% annual difference in fees, compounded over 30 years on a $200,000 balance, represents approximately $185,000 in lost wealth. Not from making bad picks, not from poor timing, just from paying fees for active management that statistically fails to justify its cost. And the stock picking itself, studies consistently show that individual investors who trade actively underperform buy and hold investors, not slightly, but dramatically. The average individual investor earns approximately 1.5 to 2.5 percentage points less per year than the market they're trying to beat, primarily because of transaction costs, taxes on gains, and the consistently terrible timing of emotional buying and selling. Boring works. Unsexy works. A single low-cost, broadly diversified index fund held for decades has outperformed the vast majority of actively managed strategies, advisor-selected portfolios, and individual stock pickers. This isn't speculation. It's documented by decades of academic research and empirical performance data. The financial industry has a massive incentive to convince you that investing is complicated because complexity justifies advisory fees. But the strategy that actually builds wealth looks embarrassingly simple. Buy everything, pay almost nothing in fees, never sell, and wait. Bad advice number 5. Pay extra on your mortgage to build equity faster. This is the one that breaks people's hearts when they see the math, because it comes from a beautiful place. Owning your home outright feels like the ultimate financial security. No payment, true freedom. That's the dream. I'm not arguing against homeownership. I'm arguing against the specific decision to accelerate mortgage payoff before maxing out retirement accounts, especially on a low-interest mortgage in an inflationary environment. Here's the real math. Claire has a 5.5% mortgage. Every extra dollar she puts toward that mortgage earns her a guaranteed 5.5% return in the form of avoided interest. That's genuinely not bad. But Diana takes those same extra dollars and puts them into an index fund. Over long periods, the stock market has returned an average of approximately 8 to 10% annually. Diana is earning 8% instead of 5.5%. The difference doesn't sound enormous, but compounded over 20 years on an extra $500 per month, it's approximately $140,000. There's also a tax dimension here that makes the conventional advice even less compelling. Mortgage interest is tax deductible for many homeowners, which reduces the effective interest rate you're paying. Meanwhile, contributions to tax-advantaged retirement accounts like a 401k or Roth IRA grow either tax-deferred or tax-free, which dramatically amplifies their effective return. And there's a liquidity issue that people almost never consider until they need to. Extra equity in your home is locked up. If something goes wrong, an emergency, a job loss, an unexpected expense, you cannot spend your equity without either selling the house or taking out a loan against it, both of which involve fees, time, and complications. Extra money in an investment account can be accessed, if necessary, within days. Not ideal, but possible. The correct sequencing, the one that actually maximizes your lifetime wealth, is this. Capture your full employer 401k match first, always. Then build your emergency fund. Then max out your Roth IRA if you're eligible. Then return to your 401k and push contributions higher. Only after you've maximized all of those tax-advantaged vehicles should you consider making extra mortgage payments. For the vast majority of people following the conventional advice to pay down the mortgage early, that decision represents tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars of foregone retirement wealth over a career. It sounds responsible. It is not financially optimal. The actual roadmap, let me give you the exact sequence. Not the conventional version, the one that actually builds wealth. Step 1. Immediately open a high-yield savings account if you don't already have one. This takes 15 minutes. Transfer your emergency fund there. You need between 9 and 12 months of actual expenses in that account for 22,006 realities, earning 3.5% or more rather than the 0.39% your bank is paying you. This is not optional. Every month you delay is money you're handing to your bank for free. Step 2. Capture every dollar of your employer's 401k match before doing anything else. If your employer matches 50 cents on every dollar up to 6% of your salary, you need to contribute at least 6%. Not capturing the full match is the financial equivalent of refusing a portion of your salary. There is no debt payoff, no investment, no financial decision anywhere that delivers a guaranteed 50% to 100% return the way an employer match does. This comes before aggressive debt payoff. It comes before extra mortgage payments. It comes before everything except your basic living expenses. Step 3, eliminate all high-interest debt with extreme prejudice. High interest means anything above 15% APR. Credit cards almost always qualify. Attack the highest rate first. Throw every dollar of discretionary income at it. Do not invest beyond the employer match. Do not build beyond a basic $2,000 emergency cushion until this debt is gone. High-interest debt is a guaranteed negative return that no investment can reliably overcome. Step 4, invest in index funds, only index funds. Open a Roth IRA if your income qualifies. In 2026, you can contribute up to $7,500 per year. Put it in a total market index fund with an expense ratio under 0.10%. Something like VTI from Vanguard, or similar offerings from Fidelity or Schwab. Then return to your 401k and increase contributions toward the annual limit of $24,500. If you have an HSA available through a high-deductible health plan, fund it aggressively because it offers a triple tax advantage that no other account matches. Do not pick stocks. Do not pay for active management. Do not try to time the market. The boring, unsexy index fund strategy has outperformed the vast majority of sophisticated strategies over virtually every meaningful time period. Compound interest is backloaded. The 8-4-3 rule tells you that your first major milestone takes about 8 years of consistent investing, the second comes in 4 years, and the third in just 3. The growth accelerates because the base grows. You just have to stay in the game long enough to reach the curve. The choice is yours. Here's what I need you to sit with. The financial advisor probably recommends. It's what gets nodded at around dinner tables by people who believe they're being responsible. And in many cases, it's quietly costing the people who follow it hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of their financial lives. Claire didn't do anything obviously wrong. She paid her debts, she saved money, she invested, she drove a nice car, she built equity. Every single decision she made had a reasonable sounding justification behind it. But Diana ran the math, and the math changed everything. 15 years from now, you're going to be in one of two positions. Either you followed the conventional playbook, the one that sounds smart at dinner parties, the one that feels responsible, and you're looking at a retirement account that tells a story of mediocre outcomes despite decades of discipline. Or you ran the actual numbers, you questioned the conventional wisdom, you made the boring decisions that nobody brags about, and you're looking at a number that buys you something that all the conventional advice in the world cannot. Options. Options to retire early, options to take a lower-paying job that you actually love, options to help your kids without destroying your own financial future, options to weather any emergency without it becoming a catastrophe. The choice is entirely yours, and you're making it right now, in this moment, by deciding whether this information changes how you behave tomorrow, or whether you go back to the advice that sounds smart and costs a fortune. Your future self is counting on the version of you that chooses to run the math.